Okay.
Greetings from Chicagoland. This is Munira, the founder and CEO of Kismet Ventures. I also have a YouTube channel called Munira's Musings on YouTube, and I am a John Maxwell certified coach, influencer, and challenger. I am on a prowl these days to find people who are adding value to others and instilling it. And today, my guest today is David Jones. Hi, David.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for sharing your time and being on my show. So, tell us where you are and what you do, and a little bit about yourself, please.
Okay, I am in Gulf Shores, Alabama, as you can tell from my southern accent. I live about 4 blocks from the Gulf of Mexico. It's a little vacation town right on the Alabama-Florida border. So I am between Mobile and Pensacola, Mobile, Alabama, and Pensacola, Florida. I am a 30-year veteran educator and athletic coach. I retired in 2016. And so now in my retirement, I am a professional jazz musician. I play music, and I also add value as a public speaker. And my major lane, of course, is education and athletics. I like to go into schools and speak to students, faculties, athletic teams about leadership. And I joined the John Maxwell team in February of 2016. And since that time, I have become acutely aware of leadership in others' lives or lack of leadership. And the John Maxwell team has absolutely changed my life and my perspective and my focus. So I am 61 years old, and I don't plan on slowing down anytime soon. I want to continue to add value to people's lives and change the world, just like you.
Well, that is awesome. Awesome. 61 years old and still going, right? Most people would think that life is over.
Well, if you slow down, you die. Seriously, I have a 95-year-old neighbor, and she still gets out and pulls weeds in her yard and works in the yard. And she told me one time, I said, Miss Mary, you really need to slow down. It's hot outside. And she always wears blue jeans and long sleeve shirts. And I said, you need to get in the air conditioning and cool off. And she said, David, remember this. When you quit, you die. So I don't plan on ever quitting. So that's kind of my philosophy as well. Same as Miss Mary.
Well, that's awesome, right? Because that's what you learn from older people. And I've always been a fan of older people. And I think that there's so much wisdom that they can share.
I agree. And as I'm getting older, I'm much more of a fan of older people.
Yes. Okay, so tell me, you said you were an educator. So what subjects did you teach, and how you said 30 years in the education system? Was it a public school?
25 years in a public school. I did 5 years in a private school in the mid-90s, so 30 years total. I taught physical education to kindergarten through 12th grade. I taught junior high English, and then I finished my career teaching high school health education to high school sophomores. And that's what kind of led me into the public speaking, was the high school health class. So it was just a natural progression for me to get into public speaking in my retirement. And I coached football and basketball.
Oh, wow. Okay. So when you speak now to students and faculty, what is your focus on, and what do you speak about?
Well, that's interesting that you would ask that, because I approach it a little bit different than most people. I don't have a standard speech that I've prepared for every situation. What I like to do is to contact the person that is in charge of booking me, and I like to find out what some of the challenges are and hurdles that they're having to jump in their particular situation. And after that, I will craft a talk specifically designed for that particular school or that particular faculty. But generally, when I speak to high school and middle school students and athletic teams, I like to speak to them about finding their purpose in life and developing their talents and gifts. And when I speak to faculties, I like to speak to them mainly about learning how to connect with students, not just communicate. And of course, that comes from John's book, Everyone Communicates, Few Connect. Because so many teachers in our day and time are just teaching information and they're not really getting to know their students and they're not connecting with their students. If you remember your favorite teachers, you will remember those teachers that really connected with you and made a difference and let you know that they cared and they loved you. And that's what teachers have to do in this day and time, not just go do a job, clock out at 3 o'clock and go home, but to literally connect and love these students.
Well, teachers and parents were the people when we were growing up. They were the authoritarians. They knew you in and out. So even if you tried to fool them with a white lie, they caught you like nobody's business because they knew you.
That is correct. But a lot of those times have changed. It's so difficult to teach nowadays. We're having a breakdown with a lot of our parenting, just to be perfectly honest with you, and a lot of bullying going on. There's a lot of hate in the world. It's not quite like it was when you and I went to school. And so the challenges are greater, the challenges are deeper for teachers and for parents in this day and time. But in my opinion, we really need to go back to those old-fashioned values that used to be so dear to us and stick to those and concentrate on those.
So what do you tell people who say, oh, but they are old-fashioned values, they're not used in this modern world today?
Well, it's hard to convince someone of that if they haven't experienced it. My response to that would be to look at the moral breakdown and the moral decay in our country, and the result of that is the lack parenting that we're seeing today and the relaxed values that we're seeing today. So if that's not working, maybe we should go back to what used to work and try that. I think we should try whatever we can today to get back to a country where people could have civil discourse without hating one another, or we could love someone regardless of the fact that they're totally different than us. You know, we seem to be losing a lot of that. So your question is valid. It's hard to convince someone, though, that doesn't remember those old-fashioned values or have not experienced those.
When you talk to students, you go in and you deliver an hour speech and you speak. How do you know that your speech has made an impact to the students? Because you're just there. I mean, I'm giving you an example because, you know, I was growing up and I'm still growing up. I haven't grown up fully yet. But when I ask, you know, my parents taught me every day to pray. And it was like an ongoing knock on the head, because every single day it was the same thing. It's like having to tell your kids to wash their hands before eating. Every single day, wash your hands before eating, right? It's like that. So we haven't made that great impact on having our kids wash their hands, and yet we have to repeat it day in, day out, 3 times a day. How do you know that the speeches that you're making is making an impact?
Well, first of all, a lot of times the students will come up to you and actually converse with you. You know, if you do a talk somewhere and no one comes up to you afterward to talk or introduce themselves or meet you, you know, you might not have had an impact. But usually students will come up and speak and thank you, and a lot of the times, you know, that's an indicator. The other thing that you like to do is to stay in touch with the administrators and the people that brought you in, and they can tell you of feedback that they heard from students after you have left. The problem with most speakers is that we go into a school or a business and we just recite information or statistics, and people don't want to hear that. People need to hear something fresh and something new, and they need to see passion and care and concern from the speaker. So my talks are very high energy. I like to incorporate my music. I'll play a couple of really up-tempo music tunes and then speak to the students from the heart. A lot of passion, a lot of energy, And, our students today need to they hear so many negative things about themselves. Kids today don't do this. Kids today don't do that. We need to let these students know that of the billions and billions of people that have lived on this planet from the beginning of time, there has never been one other person exactly like them. We're all unique. We all have gifts, talents, and abilities. And our students need to be told that, and that needs to be reinforced in their lives. And so that's one of the angles that I try to take when I'm speaking. And normally you can tell from the response during the talk and even afterwards, like I said, students coming up to you or administrators reporting to you, hey, the kids really enjoyed that, added a lot of value. Thank you.
Okay, no, that makes sense because, sometimes it's like you go to a conference, you hear the speakers, you're right in the moment, you feel energized, and by the time you come home, life happens and, that whole thing fizzles out, right? So
Right.
I'm always curious about how to take the message and then implement it into our own lives. And that message may have or may have not made an impact on us. But most motivational speakers they streamline their talk so that it does make an impact.
Well, you only get one shot usually, and you have to make the most of that one shot. And that's why there's a lot of passion, a lot of energy involved. And you got to go in and trust God that you'll say what needs to be said and do the best that you can and just leave it in His hands from there.
So do you teach about the leadership, or do you teach about, so when you craft your message, what is the underlying message all the time? Or is there the same message, and there's an underlying message, even though you tell your stories and you speak about it? Is there an underlying message? Is it uniform, or is it something that they want to hear?
Well, with the students, the underlying message is, as I had said a few minutes ago, I try to gear the students toward understanding their purpose, developing their gifts and talents. A lot of these students, they don't know that they even have a talent. I had a 75-year-old woman a couple of weeks ago that I was having a conversation on this with, and she said, David, I still haven't discovered my talent. And I said, well, it's never too late, and you have a talent. Even people on death row that have spent their entire lives in crime and wrong decisions and bad decisions, I still believe that all of those people have a talent. They just never discovered their purpose. They never developed that talent. So the sooner that we can get these students to realize what their purpose is on earth and to develop those talents, the more students we will have leading productive lives, spending their time in a positive way, not changing their major in college 3 times because they can't decide exactly what they want to do. And that's something that I try to get middle school students and early high school students thinking about and developing. And they say, well, how do you find your purpose? Well, that's a good question. How do you find your purpose? Think about the things that you would sacrifice anything else for to do. But the thing with that is that the students need to understand that their purpose in life has to, A, serve mankind in a positive way, and B, be of value to other people. A lot of times these kids say, well, I'm going to be a professional skateboarder, and there aren't very many professional skateboarders out there. That's a great hobby to have and something to pursue. And one of my former students is now a professional wakeboarder. He goes to contests, and that's what he does for a living. Very few people do that. So you need to make sure that what you're doing is exactly what your purpose is, your talents and abilities. And I also think it's important, Munira, to have a plan B. A lot of people say you don't have a plan B, you just go with plan A and ride that as long as you can. I think it's always good to have a plan B, just in case plan A doesn't work out. But both of those would have to do with your purpose, your gifts, talents, and abilities. So that's the underlying message for me with students is discovering yourself, loving people, loving yourself, and going for everything that you know with your talents, purpose, and abilities.
That's a great message because most students nowadays are in a place where it's very hard to discover themselves, right? And so I am in the business of helping people find their niche and help them, figure out what it is. Take inventory of yourself and then figure out what you want to do with it.
Yes, exactly. And see, in my case, see, I was into music early in my life. I started taking piano lessons when I was 6. Took piano lessons for 7 years. Hated it when I was taking the piano lessons. Then in junior high, I started playing the trumpet. As I got into college, I majored in music, but I really was not happy majoring in music at that time. I needed a break. I took a break. I got married, and then I changed my major to education because I wanted to teach and coach. And of course, I did that for 30 years. Now, I've always sung in the church, and I've always sung, but I put the trumpet down when I was coaching, teaching, raising a family. So I put the trumpet down for over 25 years. But 7 years ago, I decided to pick the trumpet back up again. And now I'm a professional jazz musician. I've recorded a CD. I have my own Pandora radio station. I've traveled the country playing music. And so that gift of music was always there. I just put it on the back burner to become a teacher and coach. But now I'm using that again. So you never know when those gifts are going to reemerge later on in your life, even those that you put away, because I realize that that's one of my gifts is music. So now I'm able to use that again as well, and that's a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing. I've always wanted to learn how to play a piano, but it's never come up. But I'm thinking, in the next year I should start taking some lessons. But I have short fingers, so I don't know if that's going to work.
That's why I quit playing the guitar. I never could do the bar chords because my hands were so small. I was playing in a restaurant last week, and a guy said, I played trumpet through high school. I even played a little bit in college, and he said, I still have my horn. He said, I wonder if I picked it back up and began to play again. And I said, well, it will be very frustrating at first, but if you stick with it, because music heals. Music is a healing element.
Yes.
And that's whether you're listening to it or whether you're playing it. So if you took piano lessons now at this point in your life, I think that would only be positive and rewarding for you. And, once again, that's something new that we learn. It stimulates the brain. I believe that we should all learn music.
Uh-oh, technical difficulties. This is the power of the internet. We are blessed with it. Sometimes it's a curse. So I was speaking to David Jones, and I think he's been disconnected. We'll wait for a few minutes when he comes on, and we'll continue the conversation. But he is talking about finding your purpose in life. And that's very difficult to do. Most people don't understand their purpose. But I'm finding that as we are young, we finish our college. I see that with my kids. I see it with their friends. They have to sustain themselves because now you've come out of the college because now you've got so much debt that you have to pay with. So whatever job comes along, you have to make do with it. and you start working a job, and you work a job and you fulfill the dreams of your employers, and you fulfill their goals, and you forget about yours, and in that time you find your mate and you start a family, and you get into a little bit more debt because now you are having now you have children, and you have a house, and you have a house payment and a car payment or two, and so you start living life. That's what happened to me. And all we had to do was sustain ourselves. There is David again. Hi, David.
Hey, I'm here.
Okay, it's good to see you. But as I was telling the audience that while you were disconnected, is that most people just go through life without establishing or finding their purpose. But as your kids are now growing out, growing older, and you have now, you are now you've raised your kids and they've gone to college, you need to find a purpose. Are you happy in the job that you're still doing? Are you happy living your life the way you are living? And that's what David's message is, that, find your purpose and stick with it. But whatever gifts you are attaining on the way to your purpose are those gifts that you can help with. And he played the piano and he played the trumpet for a while, but for a while, he left it and he picked it up again. And with enough practice, now he's playing at restaurants, and he's making other people happy, because music is a soothing therapy. It is a soothing therapy. David, are you still there?
I am. I don't know why I'm not on the screen. I have the video on.
That's okay. If you want to just talk and complete your message.
Yes. Well, one thing that I was going to say to you, one of the quotes that I like to use is, money can make you happy, but money cannot fulfill you. The only thing that can fulfill people is finding their purpose and, developing their talents, gifts, and abilities. We have people all over the country that go to work every day and they make a lot of money. And the money might make them happy, but it's really not fulfilling them. So that's why it's important, regardless of the money that you're making, that you develop those talents, gifts, and abilities and use those, and you will be fulfilled, not just happy.
That's great. That's an awesome message. But I'm sorry we are having technical difficulties. But I was just sharing with the audience that, as people go through life, and, you're right, because money isn't everything. But when a young person is out of college, there you are. I can see them. So when people are out of college and they're trying to build a family, and they're trying to, they have a car, they have a mortgage, they have, car payments, and all of those things that take time. And so if that is happening to you, make sure that along the way you try to grow and develop and find your purpose.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's the most important thing. For some reason, my camera has turned in the opposite direction. So I don't know how to fix that.
These are slight technical difficulties. Are you still there?
I am.
Okay. You can turn it around so that it sees you.
Okay. Let's see. I don't know. Can you see me now?
No. I think you switched it off. You switched the camera off.
All right. Hold on. No, I see you, but I don't see me.
So, Mr. Jones, can you tell us why you became a teacher? I mean, what was the calling behind that?
Well, as I said earlier, I was a little bit, I was a little disillusioned with the music, and so I wanted to try something different. I was also very much into athletics.
Okay.
And so I thought that I could use my athletic gift by coaching And the best way to do that, of course, is to teach. And so I was into the health, physical education aspect of education. And so that's how I got into the teaching and coaching. I started volunteering at my high school where I graduated from. And from there, graduated from the University of Alabama in Birmingham and began teaching in 1986. So, and that's when I kind of put the horn down shortly after that so that I could concentrate on my teaching and coaching career.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you sharing it, regardless the fact that we have some technical difficulties, but your message is very clear. You are telling people that to find your purpose and that money is not everything. You know, success to many people is having a lot of money. But for me, it means, you know, to find your purpose and find something that makes you actually happy.
I totally agree. Absolutely. And that's the purpose. That's the message. And, you know, if we would just go about being kind to everyone every day, because you never know what someone else is going through. Another area of my talks with businesses is customer service. You know, and customer service is so important. And it takes zero effort to be kind. And so that's another thing that I think that we could concentrate on in our lives daily is looking for ways to add value and ways to be a leader in our communities and in our world. So that's very important to me as well.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I'm so sorry that we're having some technical difficulties, but I know your message is loud and clear to people. And for those people who are watching, please subscribe to our channel, like and share the videos. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Jones, all the way from Alabama, and have a good day.
Thank you, Munira. I appreciate the opportunity. God bless.
Thank you.